Natural gas has had a great run this year, more than doubling from where it is in April, but perhaps it's starting to struggle. So are we finally seeing the end of this great trend for gas? I thought we'd do an update on the natural gas price. We've been watching this trend all this year, this great run from April, around $2.50 up into about $6.50 in early October, which actually ended up being the best levels since early 2014. I wonder if it's starting to stall a bit up here though. We've definitely seen more choppier trading over the last few weeks, and perhaps we are seeing a top forming. We'll talk more about this in a second when we come back and look at it in more detail and see if there's a trade to do here. We do have a couple of trades running at the moment. So there's two trades I've got open in natural gas from the 27th of September, buying at 5.75, and 11th of October, buying at 5.70. They're slightly in profit at the moment, up 160 overall. So I'll talk a bit about what's been driving the gas price in recent weeks. Then we'll come back onto the platform and see if there's another trade to do. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought let's do an update on natural gas. It's been a really hot market this year since about April of this year. We've seen a great run in the natural gas price. But I wonder if perhaps some of the momentum has left this market. That doesn't mean there aren't opportunities, but I think perhaps we've seen the market calm down a little bit. But more about that when we take a look on the charts. So as usual in this video, we'll talk about some of the recent news around gas, some of the levels to watch. Then we'll jump back onto the platform and see if there's another trade to do. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it does help support the channel. It means we can continue to push out lots of different videos on different topics throughout the week. Plus, of course, every Friday at 2:30 UK time, I now run a live stream direct from this YouTube channel. If you're subscribed with the alarm bell notification pushed, you get a message off YouTube just as we're about to go live. Right, let's get into it. Let's take a look at natural gas in a bit more detail. So like I say, it's been a great year for natural gas. It hit new highs for the year in 2021 in October. And this means it's actually at those highs in October traded up to its best levels since February 2014. So we saw 7.5-year highs for natural gas during October. At its peak, this meant the price of natural gas was up by 150% year to date. And it's a trend that started, as we saw, back in April of this year. It's really stoked fears of an energy crisis if the winter ends up being colder than expected. You know, clearly higher natural gas prices means higher prices for all of us probably when it comes to heating our homes. We've already seen the price move a bit higher this week on a forecast of colder than expected weather in the US. Just a couple of months ago, we were talking about European inventories, and this is part of the problem. European inventories for natural gas have slipped to their lowest in more than a decade. So this is, one of the reasons we've seen the price driven so high over the last few months. It is this supply-demand imbalance. There's also a political angle to all of this as well. Russia has been sending less gas to Europe. There's a couple of theories behind this. First of all, it's trying to replenish its own storage, its own inventories. We know that European inventories are weak. So if you're providing natural gas from Russia and your own inventories are low, then perhaps you want to hold some of that back for yourself. But also the political angle that some think is applying pressure to European governments as a way of getting the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline passed. But overall, we've seen this massive run higher in natural gas. As I say, a cooling off over the last couple of weeks. And I do wonder, is the big bullish move over for natural gas now? We've got a couple of trades on at the moment. Perhaps they need a bit of adjusting. Perhaps there are still opportunities though. Let's look at some of the levels to watch out for. I think the high from the end of October comes in around $6.25. After that, the high early on in October, that 7.5-year high, came in at $6.52. So a fair bit of resistance, I think, from $6.25 upwards. On the downside, we saw $5 pretty much end up being an important low in mid-October. But as usual, to put some color on these numbers, let's jump on the chart and take a look at the price. So just a quick look at the big picture view for gas before we get into having a look at it from a more short-term point of view. Historically, over the last 10 years, this zone from pretty much where we are now, about 590 through to about 670 has proved to be something of a ceiling for the natural gas price. We've seen it run out of steam over the last decade up at these levels. So I think that's something that needs to be borne in mind looking at the bigger picture. But let's zoom back in and look at what's been going on this year. We'll come to the trend in a second. Let's take a look at the RSI first of all. We've got a bit of a mixed picture from the RSI. It's been a while. This is a 10-day RSI, and we've got to go back to late September to see the last time the 10-day RSI was overbought. We did have this bearish divergence set up on that move out to 7-year highs. The market moved higher, but the RSI made a lower high. Bearish divergence can be a suggestion that perhaps the strength is running out of steam, and that has proved to be the case so far. I don't think we're getting too much from the RSI at the moment, so I'd like to focus on the price action. The trend is still up. You'll know if you've followed this channel for a while. Big fan of identifying and following trends. This trend did a great job all the way up to even the mid-August lows. That trend line, we saw a few touches on the trend line, good support, and then the price has really taken off. At the moment, that trend line is coming in, where is it? Around about $4.30. So a good 30% below where the price is trading now. So for me, if I wanted to buy into this trend, one approach is to be cautious and wait to see, do we get a much deeper sell-off for the natural gas price from where we are now? We can see just over the last month or so, 598 to 650. We haven't seen the price spend too much time up here. So I suppose if you wanted to be contrarian, going short with a stop somewhere above 650 could be an interesting trade. It's not one for me because it's going against that major trend. So for now, I'm happy to stick with the two long trades. Let's take a look at perhaps the shorter term price action to see if there's a shorter term trade. So here's the last 5 weeks or so for natural gas, and it's got perhaps a little bit scrappy is one way of describing it. We've slipped into, since those highs in early October, something of a broad sideways range. Reasonably good support ahead of 5, acting like something of a psychological support for the price of natural gas. But looking at this, for me personally, I don't think there's a trade in there. If I wanted to be a buyer, then probably based on this chart, the closest I'd have my stop would be somewhere at the other side of 560 from a really short-term point of view. But looking at the dailies, I think I'd be happy just to sit this out for now. I think if we get a move down towards 5 again, it'd be interesting to see if the buyers come back out and it ends up being psychological support. I think if we saw a bit of strength coming in ahead of 5 and I wanted to be a buyer, I'd be looking to place my stop the other side of those 21st September lows coming in around $4.75. But as I say, I've got a couple of trades open at the moment. They've got stops in place. I don't see any need to add to the risk. And I do just wonder, given the fantastic performance over the last 6 months, if perhaps we're going to see at the best sideways trading for gas at these levels for a while. We'll come back, we'll do an update, and we'll see how this trend fares in the weeks ahead. That's it for this update in natural gas. We'll see if it can break out again. I'm perhaps a bit more cautious, a bit less bullish than I have been in this run up, but let's see what happens with the price. We'll come back to it, we'll do an update, but for now we'll leave things there. So from me, David Jones and Capital.com, good luck with your trading. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.